Welcome back, visitors and subscribers. There you go. How's everybody today? Okay, we're going to continue our series of this urging of the Lynch Law. The urging of the Lynch Law. I did a video earlier about this Willie Lynch character, and we talked about how the law was changed. It all started, I would say, let's start here. The Lynch Law was applied to white folks. Okay, I've got some research, some newspapers of similar reports. A white man was lynched for horse theft. Mob hanged two white offenders. Settlers took justice into their own hand. This was frontier justice. They was hanging their own people for crimes because they had no real justice system. You know, the Wild West, you shoot us out, the fastest gun. The same thing. Community had to protect themselves from thieves and murderers and liars. So they're just taking them out and lynching. White people's doing this to each other. Here's a report from Richmond Enquirer in 1811. Reports of lynching of two white horse thieves in Virginia. Knoxville Gazette, 1820s, described lynching as frontier punishment for white outlaws, gamblers, and death-burdened whites. Mississippi Argus newspaper, 1840s. Editors complaining that lynch law was applied too often to white settlers. So this is before the so-called Civil War. That's what they call it, but it really was a war against us. Still is a war against us. And we don't even know it. That's the sad part. We don't even know the war is against us. So when you have somebody like these entrepreneurs, what was his name, Reginald White? You know, the entrepreneurs, when people die of brain cancer and things like that. Reginald Lewis. Yeah, you say, oh man, it's pitiful he died. That man was murdered. Everything's going to be revealed. I'm just telling you what really happened. Sometimes the truth is hidden for hundreds of years. And the truth will come out soon. So after 1865, that's when the narrative began to shift. Y'all follow me? Are y'all listening? I'm going to recap briefly because I had a lot of asides in there. I said this lynch law was a frontier justice that white people was doing against each other. We wasn't even implicated in their lynchings because they was in their own communities like we were, and they had to have some form of justice to protect their communities. And Captain Willie Lynch was a military officer, so he believed in punishing those who was going against the law. So he's one behind this lynch law. It was not for us. Now, after the Civil War, 1865 to 1885, things began to change. And we was labeled criminal, dangerous, subversive. Why? Because we were seeking to free our communities. We didn't want to be under their yoke. We didn't want to be oppressed. So that made us criminal. You're dangerous because you don't accept sharecropping. You don't accept white authority. You are a criminal. That's where the title comes from. We were criminalized for seeking to be free. Here's some examples from the Memphis Avalanche, a newspaper. in 1868. They had stories claiming black men were lawless. Why were they lawless? After emancipation, they said, even though many crimes were fabricated. See, they was jealous because we wasn't property anymore. They couldn't abuse us like they had been before. So they had some fake charges. It's still going on today. Nothing has changed. If y'all watch the Diddy case, Diddy became under attack, and my research showed me when he began talking about our own black political party. Do your research. I've done mine. He started talking about our own black political party. That's when he became a criminal. He was doing these things all the time. Nobody said nothing. But once he started talking about his own black political party, now he's a criminal. All these charges. And everybody have arguments. Everybody have arguments. But if you believe TV, everything you see on TV, you're a fool. Because they can show you what they want you to see. And what we do, even on TV, is not half as bad as what those who've taught us what they do. We're not mass murderers. Okay, the main thing I'm saying is that we so-called black people who they say did not want to stay in the place, they say you don't know how to stay in your place, meaning what? You don't want to be oppressed. You don't want to be nobody's slave. So you're a criminal. And they started applying the Lynch law to us to keep the Negro in his place. This is an editorial from the Atlanta Constitution, 1877. The New York Times Picayune, which I'm familiar with because I grew up reading that paper, in 1883 said they repeatedly used the phrase Negro outrages. They call us Negro outrages because we was organizing against being under their thumb. Anytime you are seeking to be free, as we can go back to Bill Cosby. He was really looking to buy out one network. I think it was ABC or NBC. He could have done it. He could do it. He could have bought out the network and changed the whole narrative of that TV channel. But no, they criminalized him to prevent him from doing that. That's what they do. And they use terms like Negro outrage to justify mob killings. That's when the full flip, they flipped the whole law to apply to black people, so-called black people, because they call them everything else to hide their identity. In the 1880s and 1890s, the Chronicle in Augusta, 1890, says, many front-page lynching announcements were public entertainment. You see that? And these was people who was refusing, trying to get their land back. These are the people that lynched. Leaders in the community, organized in the communities, trying to get their land back, complaining about injustice. They always had a just claim. So instead of trying to treat them with justice, they decided, no, we just go lynch them. We just lynch them. That was their solution to our complaints. Yes, sad, sad, sad. These are the people we're integrating with now. At least you are. You have to deal with the past if you want to go forward, people. If you don't deal with the past, You're going to constantly repeat it. Now, the one of the famous thing they used against us in lynching was to protect white womanhood. That was what the good cause the case was about. Some fakery. And you look at their women, you say, man, look at my women. You're the one who's trying to get our women. We're not running. At least before integration, we wasn't looking to chase their women. But they always had access to our women. And people think that's okay. And that's something they always use, is to say, oh, he tried to rape me. And 99% of those cases, matter of fact, 100% of the cases, it's true. We're not rapists. That's not who we are. That's their agenda. That's what colonizers do. They go in places and rape the women. We're not colonizers. We don't do that. They're portraying their way of life onto us. And most of the time, these black people were just talking back. Just talking back. I dare you talk back to me. Hang 'em. That's what it was like. Or if you had a business that was in competition with a white person, I dare you compete with me. Hang 'em. So these propagandas, they produced the false idea that lynching was associated with black people, when it was weaponized against us after emancipation. Lynching became something only white people experienced. But before, it was only for white folks. And I'm going to read briefly some things Ida B. Wells exposed of this lying narrative, because she was doing the historical research. She was a voice of reason and truth in her newspaper articles. Matter of fact, she always carried a little gun, but she wasn't going to be enslaved by no man. She said, you come try to take me, you're going to get killed. That's the type of woman she was. And she proved that these newspapers was inventing stories to justify murder. Read up Ida B. Wells. She was a voice of truth and reason back then. Okay, this is some of her key findings in the Southern Horrors in 1892 and the Red Record of 1896. She showed, this Ida B. Wells, 2/3 of lynching victims were not accused of rape. Two-thirds of two-thirds of the lynching 2/3 of the lynching victims were not accused of rape. It was just like we would say, talking back or in competition or just organizing people to be free. In some cases, they wanted the man's wife, so they raped the husband. In some cases, they wanted the man's wife, so they raped the husband because he wouldn't allow them to take her. Many lynchings were because black people opened a business. Listen, you think it's hard to open a business now. They would lynch you back then for trying to open a business or you would dispute with a white employer. You tell your white boss, no, this ain't right. I'm supposed to get paid equally as he is. Or you didn't pay me my money, hang him. Hang him. That's how they deal with you back then. There was nothing to protect you, remember? They had removed the troops. They had the troops down after the war. The Republicans removed the federal troops that was protecting you. So they just went wild. Went wild, hang you for the smallest thing. And another reason they were hanging us was because we refused to give up our land. Yeah, we fight, we defend our land. They didn't just come take the land, they had to kill us. and we were successful, independent. We didn't need them for anything. We was a threat. They tracked down the farmers who had their own independent farms, hang them, and take the land. This is the history, people. I'm reading from the papers. And I'm reading this because we have to understand the truth of what happened so we can know where to go in the future. You can't find these people and take them to court. They all passed. But that legacy lives on. And if you don't know the truth of what happened in the past, you're going to allow it to be repeated. That's why we need to know what happened. Okay? And I can bring this more modern day in my experiences in college. They had these sororities and fraternities for men, sororities for women. And you know how you can get in the sorority or fraternities? It's based on the white false accusations. That's what this is coming under. Now, where do we get this division of skin tone from? From the European idea of race. That's something he created to put himself as an advantage, because if you look at nature, he was at a disadvantage. So he had created this concept of race to put himself as an advantage, saying, okay, I'm an advantage because my skin is light. I'm an advantage because my hair blows in the wind. And y'all, nature shows that wasn't an advantage, that he can't stand the sun. That's a disadvantage. What you talking about? So he changed the whole concept and put the people who was favored by nature at the bottom and put themselves at the top. So black people, so-called black people, began to copy that idea that he started. This is how he influenced us negatively. False accusations. So these fraternities and sororities had a brown paper bag test. You remember a paper bag, right? It's a certain color. It's not black and it's not white. It's tan. So if you was darker than that paper bag, you could not get in that fraternity or that sorority. You had to be lighter than the paper bag to even go to the functions. Where did we get that from? That's not something we came up with. We wasn't out hung on color like that. And I was growing up, we just have jokes about the light skin. We call them red bone. But we didn't ever persecute them. We just make jokes with them, tell them things like, you need to get some more sun. We just joke with them. We didn't treat them any different than anybody else. So that's it, people. I'm gonna leave it right there. Let me see your questions in the chat so I can go further. Thank y'all for tuning in.